Well, Ice, great to have you here. I think we have met. I think the first time that we met, it was a couple of years ago when you were working previously for a CPG manufacturer in Mexico. I think that before Reckitt, I think that you were part of Kellogg, which is one of the leading companies in terms of RGM. So having you here is a great honor for all of us, and I'm sure that it's going to be a great conversation. Thank you, Ice.
No, thank you, Octavio. Pleasure is mine. It's always a good opportunity to get into a conversation like this, and I appreciate the chance. Thank you for having me.
Perfect. So you have worked for in the CPG industry for different companies, obviously different categories, and every category plays a different role in the market. So based in your experience in the last, I will say 4 or 5 years, I will say 6 years, what do you think should be the main objective for a CPG manufacturer to establish an RGM area in their company?
And what a great question. So to me, RGM is the smartest way to run the business. I mean, in the end, RGM has to do with pricing, with promo, with trade investment, and we're positioned in a way that allows us to have a view, interdisciplinary view, to say, hey, this is the best approach to make sense for numbers that the company need to make, but also to service shoppers and consumers. In the end, to me, making financial success and growing the categories is a key role for RGM within any company. And this is done through making smart choices to service consumers and shoppers with a value-added proposition. So to me, combining those views is the core and is what the focus should be. Regardless of the category we're talking about, it's about creating value for shoppers, consumers, and then, of course, making financial success for the company.
I think you agree that aligned to that reflection is that we need to look for a sustainable growth and also a profitable growth, where it's very important to take in consideration the 3 possible audiences that you guys have in RGM. You probably have sales. Their main goal for sales is to increase volume, to increase share of market, and also you need to take in consideration finance, which they're looking for a profitable result. And at the same time, we shouldn't let alone marketing. They're always concerned about the value of the brands, So based on these 3 areas where most of the RGM people are having conversations and a relation, what do you believe are the main challenges for this specific area of RGM in dealing with sales, finance, and marketing?
Oh my goodness, we're in the middle of that conversation, as you correctly mentioned, because in the end, these 2 strong commercial forces of sales and marketing will each pull in different directions, in the sense that, hey, let's create value for the brand, let's make sure that the brand is seen as something that it's important for consumers. But on the other hand, sales has very strong targets related to make the sale and bring the money to the company. And then finance is also part of this conversation. Putting everything in a place that makes sense for everyone is one of the core challenges of RGM, because in the end, it's about creating value for the 3 stakeholders and making sure that also our commercial partners, retailers, are also happy with the proposals that we have and we bring to the table. In the end, the company and the retailers partner to service, again, consumers and shoppers that are the ones that will make or break any given business proposal in the form of a product and a price point. And that's where the realization happens. If you are lucky, you will be able to see your proposal succeed in the marketplace.
So, like looking for this success in having the balance between the strategy of the company, a profitable growth, but also aligned to the strategy of the retailers and your different customers. What are the main or the most important KPIs that an RGM department should look for?
I would say internally, there are some that can be taken into account. Price realization is a top one, which means that you're able to take price increases at the rate of inflation or even above that, because that reflects that your brand is strong and there's value for shoppers to actually purchase your brand at the rate that it's seen in the way that it's marketed to them. Another one is gross margin. Margins are also important because that's the growth not only in the top line, but also in the bottom line of the company. And you want to make sure that you have a creative view on those margins. And this is something you can do from RGM, playing with price points, but also with the portfolio offering, and the assortment will be part of that conversation. And thirdly, you trade investment. So this is something that is kind of a hard topic to be discussed with retailer partners. The investment that you have as a company to the retailers should make sense to them, but should be focused on growing the business for everyone. It'll be about focusing the effort in consumers and shoppers and making sure that they get the value of your investments, but also this reflects in the profitability of your retailer partner.
We're talking about different skills. Do you believe, I have two questions here. It's like, you have put together RGM teams in your different companies.
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe the challenge of picking and selecting the right people for the right role in your different teams that you have put together? Because you need someone that really understands, I will say, econometrics, someone that really knows how to crunch data, but also someone that really knows how to tell story that can help you move your initiatives through the different people around finance, sales, and marketing.
So to me, RGM is in between art and science. It's not all about science and data crunching and the numbers. It has this artistic side when you think about setting a price point that is commercially acceptable. So when I reflect about RGM talent, they need to have this ability to be in between these two worlds, the art and the science. And for that, certainly people with numeric skills is important, but also with commercial savviness, and that have this sensitivity of the market and saying, it makes sense for us to go this direction. There might be some strategic decisions that you need to pursue. In the case of a new launch of something that nobody knows, maybe it's time to, hey, should we heavy up on the promo side because this is an item that is not known by anyone because we just launched it. So it may not make a lot of sense from the ROI standpoint, hard metric, but it makes sense strategically in the long run. And for me, people that have combined backgrounds are most successful in RGM. So that type of profile that brings together different worlds, in my opinion, is better suited to be very successful in RGM.
Let's talk a little bit now more specific subjects about pricing and strategy. Now, in your experience, what are the key factors for developing an effective pricing and trip promotion strategy when you have diverse markets within your company, like the ones that you have handled and managed?
I will mention that has to do with the value. In the end, pricing strategy is linked completely to value. And value is something that shoppers will see in your marketplace. Say, for example, there is a brand that is very strong in any given market, and then you have this strong value proposition. The equity of the brand is so strong that it could be a premium brand. By all means, go in that direction. But you need to have that sensitivity from the market, that reading on how your brand is seen in the marketplace. In other market, maybe something that it's a brand new brand, so nobody knows about it. We're introducing the brand. Maybe we play the mid-tier type of thing. Again, depending on the value that you're offering to shoppers or consumers. So to me, that's one part. In that sense, utilizing solutions like readings of the marketplace via consumer research, shopper research are important, and also see your competitive position. How are you doing in market share? Are you a strong player? Are you a follower? And in that case, you may pursue these different strategies. To me, the pricing strategy is something that is guided by the marketing team. They are the owners and the expert of the portfolio, and they will be able to tell you, hey, this brand commands a premium price, this brand does not, and you take it from there. Challenging, of course, that's part of the nature of RGM, to challenge the assumptions. But in the end, it has to do with, hey, if we can charge more because it's seen, the shoppers are seeing the value, let's go for it, and let's make sure that we take advantage of that and bring that income to the revenue to the company.
And I think these challenges are well done with data, correct? Okay. So you need to be generating data or reading data or analyzing data. Now, you were talking about how sensible is going to be the consumer for a specific price point or for one specific price, if it's premium or it's not premium, you know.
Yeah.
So now this is probably price elasticity, right? So in your opinion, what is a good way to incorporate this pricing and demand elasticities or this analysis into your RGM strategies, or into building this story to convince marketing that this should be the price or the promotion, or sales that they should go and negotiate this promotional budget? So how relevant and how important it is to incorporate these price elasticities into this analysis?
No, it's a great question. See, so to me, price elasticity is the bedrock. So to me, having that data or objective information foundation on this conversation is core. Because if you're able to say, hey, we take prices with confidence that the volumes will not go down dramatically and we can make more revenue, in the end, that's the mandate for RGM. So elasticity is a core part of that conversation. Also, I will mention cross elasticities, no? Because sometimes we have not only the elasticity of our own brand, our own portfolio, but also displays within the context of a portfolio. If we have more than one brand, more than one item, which is likely the case for many companies, you need to make sure that you grow as a whole, and you need to have this reading on how you play. And hey, you are taking too much pricing here, and then maybe you are catching some of that volume with other brands in your own portfolio. Well, that's a great way to go, because hey, you are premiumizing your brand, your portfolio brand number one, and then you, for those shoppers that are no longer seeing the value, you can catch them with brand number two within your portfolio. That's great news. But sometimes it's the opposite, that you're just going too far or being shy about it and not necessarily maximizing your revenue. So core conversation and the models that can incorporate elasticities, cross elasticities are very important to make these pricing decisions.
Yeah, I was gonna get into that subject, because I remember probably 6 years ago or some years ago when we started presenting Wise Athena, we faced and we found out that there were some companies using price elasticity reports and analysis that were expired like 3-4 years, you know, and still they were taking decisions based on that, you know. Probably the consumer or the shopper and the behavior of the category was not that, you know, that unstable like we can see right now. So, but today, under the current circumstances, the current political environment, the current situation that we're experiencing in countries, Mexico, Latin America, or even in the US, what methods would you recommend for calculating them? How often should we update those price elasticities, or how often should we analyzing the price elasticity for a product when preparing a pricing strategy, a price increase, or optimizing a promotional budget?
Yeah, one of the challenges as we're discussing now is related to data availability and the freshness of the data. To me, whenever there's big market changes, it's maybe a good time to refresh your elasticities. Think about the pandemic, no? That obviously changed the behaviors of shoppers and consumers, and that's something that maybe have an alteration in the elasticities you see in the marketplace. Or think about the market when a new player comes in. Hey, you're no longer the new kid on the block, so there's somebody else, and then you need to adjust, because that new player will have a value proposition that may have an impact in your own elasticities. So whenever those things happen, if nothing major changes, maybe every couple of years would be a good way to think about updating your elasticities, updating your models, and see what's happening. But in this volatile world, maybe something that may not happen. You may need to do that in a shorter time frame.
Sure.
And then we have elasticities. We can have a matrix of elasticities, or even the one bit of a more advanced view of this, which is the purchase structure. That is another way to see how consumers and actually shoppers do see the differences in items and how they go about making their pricing decisions.
This makes it complex, you know, I think, because you have, on one hand, you need to be calculating your price elasticities, probably through POS retail data, You need to also be analyzing your consumer and shopper insights, which have different structure, different frequency of information, different granularity. So sometimes it gets hard for a team of data analysts to be observing and to be crunching this data if you have different data sources. What is the role that you think these new AI tools and advanced analytics tools play in improving pricing and promotion decisions?
I think to me, AI is it's a great way to go about making our job easier in the sense that, hey, we can have this big amount of data sources, data points. How do we go about reconciling those sources of information and getting to the truth? Then again, the truth, I quote unquote it because it's something that's kind of a mobile target, so to speak. But in the end, it's about helping us with having the latest insights fresh to our hands. And the heavy lifting, if it can be done by artificial intelligence, is way better, because instead of taking the time for your analyst or your team of analysts to do that, you can rely on artificial intelligence to give you a more palatable way to ingest these sources of information and make informed decisions based on the latest that you have at your hands.
Interesting. Now, I think one important component and pillar on RGM is to be able to establish the right processes that can help you leave the right playbooks to be replicating and to understand exactly what are you doing, and this can be done by probably hiring an expert from another company that can help you replicate and build these processes and work on these playbooks, and the other one is to hire an RGM consulting service, and I think you have done twice. What do you think? What's your experience in handling consulting companies for establishing an RGM department and writing the processes, or helping you writing the processes and leaving playbooks, and also working by your own and doing this by yourself?
Wow, and both have merit. I will tell you, it's if you have the luxury to have both approaches and say, hey, we can do some efforts internally with our own resources, and also have the support of an external partner, that will propel you in a higher way. Because if you want to go in your own way, of course you can do it. It'll take you a bit more of time. It'll be perhaps something you need to start from the capability building, and that's something that will be just taking a little bit more of time, and you will have to be patient in that approach. On the other hand, there are companies that say, hey, we want to have the external partner come in and will do something for us, and will add value by all means, but may not be sustainable. So to me, having both is a perfect combination, because you can have your own internal team working, delivering, keeping you updated on what's happening, and then your external partner bringing you the capabilities that you may be missing or not fully developed yet, and they support you with that, give you the freshest, put you on the edge of the conversation, and then continue working on your own at your own pace within your company.
Great, I like it. Now we're getting into the end of this conversation. I want to leave you one more question here. What current trends in RGM do you believe will be crucial for the future of the CPG industry, at least in Mexico, Latin America? What do you think will be very important? Which trends do you think every RGM leader should take in consideration?
Oh, that's a very deep question. I would say, to me, the foundation of RGM is something we need to keep in sight at all times, is how do we go about creating value for our companies. So that is a tendency that will come, and you will have a lot of volatility. That's something that we're seeing in many markets, whether, hey, inflation rates were high, not high anymore. Think about pricing. We had the ability to take price in an aggressive way for the past years. That is no longer the case, so we need to flip. So in that case, the ability to maintain ourselves fresh and use the different RGM levers is something that will, to me, never be out of fashion. You need to be savvy in pricing strategy, you need to be savvy on promo strategy, how do you go about investment with trade, And always keep in mind that the ultimate goal is to provide value for everyone involved in the conversation. So to me, that's something to keep an eye on, and be flexible. That's the other piece. Be flexible because you may be needing to have shifting priorities on the go, and that's something you need to be able to adapt.
That's very good. Thank you, Ice. And thank you very much for participating in this conversation. I think it was very, very interesting. I'm sure that many experts around Mexico and Latin America and the US and some other countries will really appreciate this, and will really thank you for this interesting content that you have shared with us.
Thank you, Octavio, AIS Soto team, for having me. It was a pleasure, and looking forward to continuing the conversation.